Let us now continue with our journey to the West. It seems that many of you still have not received the actual book, the hard copies. I heard that nowadays there are people selling the books online, some 133 RMB, some 140, some 56, some 90-ish. Different places were selling at different pricings, but we at Larangar somehow could not land our hands on any copies at all. Well, in that way, then maybe you can just visualize you have the hard copy and then just look at the books. Well, let's look at the text. It says that the sixth mind training or instructions from a sublime master are the path that leads to the palace of liberation like a perfect staircase. This mind training means that the way to free yourself from samsara and achieve liberation cannot be accomplished through just your own efforts. It can only be learned and accomplished by relying on teachings of sublime masters. For instance, if you want to go to the top of a high building, you won't be able to make it without climbing the stairs or taking an elevator. In the same way, without the instructions from a sacred master, even if you study the scriptures and other Dharma texts, you won't be able to fully understand them with just your own intelligence. Especially when it comes to the Vajrayana Dharma teachings, there are people who would purchase the Vajrayana texts and then they would feel that they can gain the knowledge of it, but that is not true. Without the explanation and teachings and guidance from a Lama, one would not be able to grasp the meaning of it, though it may appear that the words are the same. It is really not the same. There are people who would purchase texts such as Lama Yanti, such as Yeshe Lama, such as the Luminous Essence, and so on. After buying a whole bunch of those books without faith, without the path instructions from the Lama, then the books are the books, and they're no different than manuals from a business, from a corporation. Your mind stream will not be able to enter into the vast ocean of that Dharma. So sometimes I really think to myself that encountering the Lamas, it is not just to meet them in person, rather it is how much the Lama had taught. You have to understand the teachings, and we have already received that. We should indeed feel really fortunate of it. Without the teachings and examples set by the Lama, then we would not be able to know what to adopt and what to reject. Therefore, the instructions from a teacher are of vital importance. If there is no qualified teacher to teach you, you will not know how to abstain from negativity and practice virtue. You would be totally at a loss and as ignorant as animals. Only when you are accepted and guided by virtuous teachers will you get to know the extraordinary method that not only bring peace and happiness within this lifetime, but also leads to joy and happiness after life. And such a teacher is hard to encounter, and even 100,000 wish-fulfilling jewels cannot compare with his or her value. Now that we have already encountered such a wonderful teacher, and this is really real, we need to understand that. There are people who are called as teachers, as lamas, but how many of them truly hold the key of attaining happiness and peace life after life? We really need to make sure that we see and seek the true teacher. There are three ways to please the teacher while relying on him or her: to practice virtue and abandon negative deeds, let go of attachment to this life, and focus solely on the pursuit of liberation is the best. This is the best way of pleasing the teacher. teacher, and to follow the teacher's instructions and wholeheartedly devote oneself to the activities of the teacher, including being sent on a mission, is the middling way of relying on the teacher. And the minimum way to please the teacher is to offer all of what you have to the teacher and teacher's Dharma center, and to participate in all kinds of virtuous activities initiated by the teacher, such as building Buddha statues and so on. All three ways are indispensable to please and serve your teacher. Nowadays, I think there are many people who would mistakenly take that pleasing one's teacher is to offer whatever you have to the teacher and teacher's Dharma activities. But that is not true. A true teacher would value your own practice to adopt virtue and abandon negative deeds and practice the Dharma as the most surpassing way of the best way of pleasing the teacher. Let me reiterate the three ways of following the Guru. When encountering a Guru who is as precious as a wish-fulfilling jewel, it is best that you follow his or her instructions to forsake negative deeds and engage in virtuous practice. If you're unable to accomplish that, then you should earnestly do whatever the master needs you to do, such as building shrine halls, making statues of Buddhas, printing scriptures, erecting stupas, and so on. Nowadays, it seems that there are people who have so much of those kinds of habitual tendencies of making business out of it. Even at the beginning, a disciple probably made the aspiration to print scriptures and making statues of Buddhas and so on as an activity to offer to the Guru. But then later, because of their habitual tendencies, they would take that on as a business. So we need to pay attention to that. If this is also beyond your ability, at the very least, you should generously offer all of your possessions to the teacher and his or her Dharma center. Over here, all of the possession, I think it's probably too difficult, but I think it is all of the possessions that you would not you would not feel stingy. You would not be stingy to give. You would generously offer all of that kind of generous offering of the possessions. If you are stingy to maybe $1 or two to $100, then it is the best for you not to do that. If you're very generous and not having any kinds of grasping to $1 or two, then you can offer that. That would be really good too. If you fail to serve the teacher through any of the three ways, the fact that you have attained the precious human rebirth and encountered a qualified Guru will be completely wasted. I really think that the best way to rely on a teacher is to engage in study, practice, and contemplation, because this is the way where you would not create harm to yourself nor the teacher. You would not have any grasping to the possession. You would not have any negative thoughts. Especially when it comes to making offering, a monetary and financial offering to a Lama. If the Lama is a mundane being and have lots of grasping to financial wealth, then after having lots of monetary offerings, it's very difficult to say what a mundane Guru would do with those kinds of money and what you would feel about that. So the best would be to engage in your own study, contemplation, and practice of the Dharma. That would be the safest. And then Ponsu Rinpoche continued to say that, for my part, I don't think you should show excessive devotion and reverence to me, a person you've just met for just the first time and don't even know if I have faults or merits. Because at that time, lots of the disciples had lots of reverence to Ponsu Rinpoche and lots of devotion to him. So Ponsu Rinpoche was a little worried if they would show excessive devotion to him. The masters you should serve and work for with great veneration are those from your own Dharma centers who always stay with you and can bring you true benefit, or those who reside in this country and are familiar to you. The seventh mind training, non-conceptual concentration, is the basis for emergence of all states of samadhi, like a fertile field. This is to say that if you want to achieve the same state of samadhi as those attained by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you must first have mastery over your own mind and abide in meditative concentration. Thus, you must make an effort to practice meditation. This instruction is on the 7 common mind trainings, and now they're all completed. The morning session of empowerment was scheduled to be 2 hours, but since the last part of the ritual failed to be completed in due time, it was extended for half an hour. That was really out of my control, so please forgive me. In fact, Phuntsog Rinpoche at that time really tried very hard to finish the entire empowerment and the translation within the time period, but it was prolonged for half an hour. The translator kept on trying to translate faster and faster, but at the end, the time was still got extended, so he appeared to be a little bit unhappy about that. If he were to be teaching at Tibet, then everybody would be very happy about Phuntsog Rinpoche keep going on with the Dharma teachings. But Phuntsog Rinpoche over here apologized for extending the class for half an hour. At Sogyal Rinpoche's center in France, he said that you can teach as long as you wish or as short as you wish, and they're all my disciples. I can make that decision for sure. So Phuntsog Rinpoche was really relaxed and kept on teaching for a long period of time. And then at that time, Phuntsog Rinpoche continued to say that I will end this session exactly after 2 hours. There is nothing left. You must be happy about that. Now this is the time to go home and sleep, and people started laughing. Maybe at that time, I believe it was in the afternoon. It was about 4 p.m. and people probably felt that it was really quite too early to go to sleep. Now let's look at 2 profound practices. On July 11th, Choji conferred the empowerment of peaceful Manjushri and Vajrakilaya Gokirkama. During the empowerments, Rinpoche gave a concise teaching. Both peaceful Manjushri and Vajrakilaya Gokirkama cycles have their own auxiliary teachings, and they're very few in number, not as many as other Dharma teachings in Nyingma tradition. In terms of its content, the peaceful Manjushri provides the stage-by-stage instruction for the complete path to full awakening, including the practical and skillful methods for the preliminary and main practices. It can be explained by the combination of the teachings from the outer aspect, the prophecies from the inner aspect, and the instructions from the sacred aspect. It also can be taught according to the Tantras, the 7-line prayer, or the Shastras. Basically, most of my Dharma compositions were completed in my teenage years. In general, they were all composed because of the requests of others. And once they were done, I'd entrust them to the one who made the request without ever bothering to take care of them. Nevertheless, some of my disciples have collected my works of composition and compiled them into books, which now comprise 4 volumes. They have been made into wood carvings, traditional Tibetan handicrafts for printing scriptures, while their circulations is mainly through modern printing technologies. Among my works, some of them, such as Peaceful Manjushri Cycle, are classified into teachings composed in the Han Chinese region, and Vajrakilaya Gokirkama Cycle includes a series of teachings such as rituals for confessing and restoring damaged and broken vows that is used in the extensive practice, as well as others like prayer of subjugating activities, fire offerings, and all of that were composed at the request of Gyalwai Rinpoche and the Natural Protector. This category of teaching plus accomplishing all activity, a daily practice of great and glorious Dorje Trollo or Terma that I reviewed at Paro Taksam, and the quintessence of oceanic prayers of aspiration that I composed at the Vajra seat are all classified into teaching composed in India. This time, I have given you the transmission of the peaceful manjushri and the Vajrakilaya Kirkma, which can be found in the text in your hands. So now I am going to give you part of the oral transmission because the majority of the empowerments and so on and transmissions were given by Toku already. So I'll give you the oral transmission of the lineage aspiration prayer of peaceful manjushri, as well as the quintessence of oceanic prayer of aspiration, also the aspiration prayer of Vajrakilaya Kirkma. These I have all given it to you before at Larungar, but as an dependent arising, I will read it to you. I'll give you the oral transmission to all of you. Pontsog Rinpoche once said that between I and Manjushri, there is no one else who parted you from this teaching. And these teachings I have already received it directly from Pontsog Rinpoche, directly from the place where he reviewed those termas. So first of all, the Vajrakilaya.
Wanchin la Sorande so China Varcha Chu Yeron Jimsit Gama Chubji Yao Zapsu Gama Putrum Chichi Wanshin Yula Sorande so China Varcha so Shotim Samar Zeki Persia Naki Sakum Hair number Sada Santir Shanchip Semjir Sarzo de Yansan Tigler Bam Munjur Show Jibanda Chirukteton Lero Lambi Yanch Ringzen Jigme Punso Johnny Jarnga Neki Tana Param Gurkuma Gindib Jigum Jogo Ji, Kurma Chirter, Nawa, Tard, Lerman, Shirtigel, Notanz Jams, Woda Chirtar, Dab, Dumbi, Sech, Chig, Shodo, Chirgur, Gups, Tambal, or Dab, Dumbi, Sen, Yasimla, Chipa, Gelam, Per.
Now that the previous one was the lineage aspiration to Vajrakilaya Kirkma. Then the next one is lineage prayer of peaceful manjushri. It includes the prayer from all the lineage masters.
Jahur Jujub Ginde Tapak Surman Jigso, Choyam Tapter Turkey Jankams, Kachu Domi, Sansas and Jahur Kundos on Soran, the Katak Mosun Topper Shinji, Ranan Talonki Jankams, Nibar and Taki Shirgazon, Jahur Durjan Chan Soran, there's no Jam Tarab Shimber Shinjilo, Mangin Road, Turkey Jankams, the counter tree, Rora Chair. Jahurishi San Sora and Dev Tanju Tonchin Jabber Shinjilo, Nature River Singing Jankams and Jahur Tijishan Ilar and Jimmy Panzala Sora. Gonji Toban Por Shinji Lo Zhanya, Stab Yedab Lama Yetam La, Kandro Tamjim Chela Sora and the Shinlo Mujum Chokton, Chinlin Javarchin Tata, Jiver Shinji Lop, the Sora Tap of Shinlep, Center Church Lasso. Gondam Per Shimanjin Cholama, Jimcher Dan, Yermit Somachik, the Jabber Show, Jiban, the Gang, Lama Choyan, Dan Sudun Soki, Jekon, Jendangan, Lojum, some Chirajam, Rower saying young, Asri, Triput of Copa, Gay, Wo. 然后是那个远海清水，刚才这些都出在这里，所以我们还是象征性的给大家交付一下。我们讲所以样，你跟上这个你们就晓得这个说，让人从花儿准备个养老直接单把账，都不用的跟那做不的，他往来他们这个公司说的我什么的，其实那里跟个最近的经验上，当年都把有些就是那么想说的生气的，到底看清楚跟，然后东西得花了嘛，说把人们他不上去，研究呢，就不需要这边中间第二跟的要。 자우르하고 기준 지존에 근도 zambur문 leptem beşanjı şu ben yamsam darjın mawa namjang gıp yakıp jı jandarm onsan yebet sırtı ırtaqda jamjan yenem çoqda gerlapçın çınnet berim tadoju zangan lekim reresen senderm butsev deçen janda ki gomsın tombar songolontan ton kevseni bir sarjın zobrı tümer kertin tarjan yan rimin jorna pande xwargin so tigun yıllar mumbanda konam tenger songo oyontan prashi kanji pansor devjidir malike genim soksuzur meşir gıpap sarjamani gelakno saxsım kabra şo jiban yero dor jejam shanchu chong gyam devjan shigbi zhong de ngang lo zum somet pe mumba jind lar japble yiker kopa gego